Dr. Yu's office was festooned with dangling models of vertebrae in various sizes, mostly human in scale, some incredibly tiny. On his first visit, Angleton thought of the tangles of serpents in the snake stall at the night market in Guangzhou. He'd point to a likely specimen. The attendant would rap it sharply on the head with a hammer. Then he would make an incision with a tiny knife and unzip the skin in a swift move that made a mockery of the slow shedding that comes to creatures naturally in cycles. Angleton's housekeeper used the naked bony creatures in soup, food for his ailing back. Angleton identified with these doomed snakes as he lay face down on a leather table in Dr. Yu's herb-scented office and waited for the torture to be over. His right leg had been lame since childhood. Polio, one of the last cases in the civilized world, thanks to a visit his family made to India. The humidity in Shanghai and his growing age, just past 40, had hobbled him to the point he needed serious treatment. He had finally taken the advice of his Shanghainese girlfriend Lily and visited Dr. Yu. Dr. Yu seemed normal on first meeting. He was tall and well-built with a pleasant face and neatly trimmed hair. But in truth, he was all thumbs. Monstrous digits several inches long, relentlessly pressing and poking. He treated men like Angleton with chronic conditions, and men from the new Shanghai Stock Exchange suffered from the maladies of the computer age. Angleton distracted himself from Dr. Yu's painful ministrations by remembering Lily, with her cultish moves and shining dark eyes, her delicious mixture of shyness and abandon. He thought of that morning, the curve of her hip bone greeting him when he woke, his hand reaching for that silky place just over the curve, her instant welcome. Lily, his first groupie. Shortly after being posted to Shanghai in early 1996 as the Bulletin's first bureau chief and only employee, Angleton had taken his guitar along to one of the city's hip new clubs and played a few folk ditties for the bar crowd. Within weeks, he had shifted to rock and roll and become a post-colonial Pied Piper, introducing Shanghai to his boyhood idols, the Stones, the Police, the Who. He knew all the oldies the Chinese hadn't heard yet. He got top billing at the discos, which were run by a branch of the People's Liberation Army. He was a magnet for girls like Lily. Lily's parents had been enthralled in the Red Guard, but she was of a new guard born long after the Cultural Revolution, too young to be scarred by Tiananmen. Her hopes were shaped by the fresh abundance and open doors of economic reform. Angleton grew up with rock star dreams. He saw himself heading to London or New York, Los Angeles, even Memphis when he was a boy. Instead, he got polio. Now on the cusp of too late in what he liked to think of as a sort of cultural arbitrage, he was bringing the music of another time to a place where it was new again, parlaying a minor talent into local legend status. He found the experience impossibly thrilling. He had put together a group of backup singers, all lovelies like Lily with her long legs and wispy voice. Lily introduced him to Wu, who wore sultry eye makeup and played a stringed instrument called the peepaw. If Wu developed a little more swagger, he figured she could become the first Chinese girl guitar player. They brought on John on sax and guitar. John was 6'1", lean and sexy. He had idealized the American jazz players, but Angleton had convinced him that was passé and made him into protege number one. Angleton let him sing along on I'm a Man. All the pretty women stand in line. I make love to you, baby, in an hour time. Angleton was teaching him his repertoire to John. Even obscure songs like Clarence Carter's Slip Away. John was a sponge. Angleton thought again of Lily's perfect triangular upper and lower lips, imagining her lips on him, his lips on her, visualizing the impossibly precise upper curve, the sweet, full, soft lower lip locked upon him as his hand brushed her soft hair. Lily wore clothes he didn't understand, embroidered nubs and silky ties instead of buttons and zippers. Everything fastened at an angle off center. She seemed immune to the idea of underwear. He smiled against the paper sheet beneath him. She had a t-shirty thing she wore that always fell off one shoulder. She would stand in the kitchen brewing tea or cooking something, and then there would be that naked shoulder. Lily had brought other surprises with her. Within days of moving in with him, she had dumped the muslin tea bags from home that made his usual vile dark brew and converted him to green tea steeped in a pot. The grounds resembled the vibrant sensimilla buds he'd encountered in his youth. The aroma was part peony, part lemongrass. The buzz was crystalline, focused, not the jangly ride he was used to. She served it in a cup with a lid. "Stay hot, Engel," she explained, so hot he burned his mouth the first morning. A tune popped into his awareness. "Every breath you take," he sang softly. Dr. Yu ignored him. Angleton kept going to the end of the song. Rehearsing took his mind off what Dr. Yu was doing. Ah, another unexpected knot of the sharper pain. "That hurt," Dr. Yu said. "I try to ignore the pain," Angleton said. "Don't ignore pain. You have to solve problems," Dr. Yu said. Right. He wished he could erase the years, go back in time like some comic book character, and zap the polio virus before it was embedded in his body. Who knows how that would have changed his life? Dr. Yu meant that he should address the problem logically, do each exercise 10 times twice a day forever, stop every half hour while working at the computer, and stretch in the prescribed manner. Solving the problem required torture of another variety. Before visiting Dr. Yu, he had tried the herbalist who treated Lily's father. The herbalist brushed away Angleton's description of the pain in his back, examined his tongue, held his wrist for a while, and measured out a series of powders from a top shelf in his office. Angleton was to combine the mixture of herbs with warm water and drink. 3 spoons, 3 times a day, 30 minutes before meals. 3, 3, 3, the herbalist had repeated, as if Angleton were a dunce. Warm water. The concoction was the color of curry powder, pungent and foul-tasting. Lily brewed it up each time and fed 3 spoonfuls to Angleton. He gasped it down, trying not to breathe. The pain went away. Angleton felt great. He realized how awful the pain had been, and that it was gone. A couple of nights later, he drank a couple of beers and ended up in the corner of the bar at Shanghai Sally's, retching like a schoolboy. Lily and John helped him home. He came to in his bed, hardly able to lift his head. When he checked back with the herbalist, he discovered that the miraculous smelly elixir included a hefty dose of opium. He swore off herbs and started in with Dr. Yu.